In the movie Blade Runner 1982, one of the tests used to recognize androids from humans was asking them about their mothers and then analyzing their reactions. More than a mother, artificial intelligence seems to have a lot of fathers. It is often portrayed as our progenies by many of the scientists working on it, such as Hans Moravec, who states in his famous book Mind Children 1988. Today, our machines are still simple creations, requiring the parental care and hovering attention of any newborn, hardly worthy of the word intelligent. Do you feel any father-like feeling towards the robots you are producing? Can you see any affinity with a parent-child relationship? Or do you think this is an anthropocentric concept that doesn't help to understand nor describes the actual relationship between humans and artificial intelligence?
I have two wonderful children, Madeline and James, and clearly as a father you feel an affinity towards them. You want them to do well, and you feel maybe a little bit protective, whatever. Do you feel the same towards robots, perhaps? Well, I think clearly the answer is yes, perhaps in a different way, to be realistic. I mean, some of our little seven dwarf robots, these are little, they're not particularly intelligent, but they interact using sonar, avoid bumping into each other. So we've taken them around, and particularly with children, it's really interesting that the child that starts playing will focus in on one robot and will feel very protective of that robot and very supportive, particularly if the robot has something wrong with it. Maybe one of its wheels comes loose or whatever. But you will see the children talking to the robots, as they would perhaps with a toy or a teddy bear or a brother or sister, being very protective, talking to it in a very affectionate way. I've heard children say, yeah, it needs to sleep now, it needs to have a rest. So perhaps they are being anthropomorphic, thinking of it as a little baby or a pet, perhaps. But nevertheless, there is a strong affinity there. I think when you're involved with the robots being put together, both in terms of the hardware build and the software development and their learning experience when they've been moving around, and they start to pick up different traits, different habits that perhaps sometimes you haven't expected, that perhaps sometimes you don't like. So there is an affinity, but it can be positive, negative. You can start to get annoyed with it that it's not doing what you wanted it to do, or in a parent type way. Or you can start feeling very proud that look how quickly it learned to do the right thing. With the sort of robots we're dealing with now, these are where we're growing the brain. So in many ways, it's bringing the robot to life. It is a living entity. The brain is living material that has to be fed, that has to be looked after, and so on. Then you see the robot develop from day zero, and you see how it learns over a period of time and changes its behavior. I mean, at any one time, we have typically 25 different brains that we put in a robot body, and they develop in different ways, and you find yourself becoming very protective and supportive of certain of the brains that seem to be helping and going in the right direction, and quite annoyed with other ones that maybe they're aggressive or maybe they're very hesitant, that have developed in a different way. You also, because the brains at the moment, after about 3 months, they tend to be too old, as it were. They stop functioning so well. And you become quite protective, perhaps as you would be to an elderly relative. You're quite sad, you want to help, but no, there's not a lot you can do. So even though they are in the laboratory and you're treating them as an experiment, which is what they are, you're still feeling a considerable affinity. The one extreme more as they are your child, and then the other extreme as though they are your parent. But very strong emotional ties that you get between what is now a living creature that is a robot.